Alrighty, welcome back to Gregtech New Horizons. We are right back in it on episode 2, right where we left off. What is this war used for? Nickel, we'll keep it around for now. So we're starting right back out, um, exactly where we left off, after the, well, quite frankly, but monstrous 2-hour long episode 1. The reason for that being 2 hours, well, the first reason is just the absolute breadth of content to cover, and also the fact that I think maybe I cannot remember in Threefold's season 1 of Gregtech New Horizon, he went through every single, like the basics, right? He went through of, I believe there was some jump cuts, but not many on basically how to exist, how to do things in New Horizons, and start the game from, scratch. So, like Cox89, like in his series, he went into game mode C, like game mode creative, like like that. I don't have permission to use that command. Obviously, it is the honor system in a way because there's always the open the LAN and allow cheats. So that's just one thing. No matter who you're watching, hardcore or not, there's always world backups and other shenanigans afoot on stuff like that. So no matter who you're watching, it's always an honor system when it comes to hardcore and doing things as, well, quote unquote legit, like legit playthroughs, legit, no rerolls, etc., etc. It's just how it is. So this will be the food chest. Dump, dump. One thing I'll do, just start the rubber tree multiplication as fast as possible. I normally don't build taps. I just mass chop down rubber trees and used our logs as fuel in the early game. And I am very aware that I need these gardens for the healing axe, but yeah, it's a twofold thing. Number one, I'm not rushing the healing axe because I really want to show, the default. If as always, I want to show the default way, the way most people are going to be approaching tackling the problem. So the first thing or problem, we have the collections. The very first problem we have to solve is the lack of food, and of course the easiest way to solve that. So we grab these, 2 of these, and our planks, and we're going to be immediately starting a farm. Our other hoe we ditched in the beginning, so we'll take textile. I believe this gives us the seeds we want. No, so we need to turn these into the correct seeds. Yes, so if we do this, boom. Okay, so that's also the other thing. You do not want Pam's Harvestcraft cotton. It is simply less efficient than the Natura cotton. The Natura cotton is just wholly more efficient in every way possible. It is just flat out just worse to use the Pam's Harvestcraft cotton. So always convert. Okay, so every single garden. We blew through our gardens, which is fine, because, again, as always in Gregtech New Horizons, we stay by our rule of make things easier in the now and keep our sanity, and later on things will be better. That's always the most important thing when playing Gregtech New Horizons, in my opinion, is prioritizing your sanity. Whatever makes your gameplay easier, do it. Like, obviously, within the bounds of whatever rules you set, because you know, if you want to use TPs and waypoints, and then, that's totally fine for you, as long as you. The main thing is establishing a set of rules of do's and don'ts. Like, I know it jokes in one of the, what's it called? In one of, like, the loading bar messages, like, hey, if there's an infernal mob outside your base, don't be afraid to spawn in a Sword of the Cosmos to kill it, right? In that, even though it's very humorous in that stance, there's also a lot of truth to that, in that you should never sacrifice your own fun for the, like, quote unquote integrity of the game, right? Like, your own enjoyment of what you're doing has to come first, or else you're just going to quit and you're not going to want to play anymore. And that is just a fact. So, this field is going to be a mess, and I'm just going to have to accept that. I very much am opposed to doing this normally, but at the beginning of the game, that's just the cards were dealt, so we're just gonna have to suck it up. Really, is how it's gonna have to happen. Okay, so the first episode was, like, insanely long. I mean, ungodly. It's actually taking YouTube, like, I mean, as the recording of this episode is being recorded like 6 hours after the first one, so definitely later in the day. But it's still taking, God, it's still not done. Like, it's still not done rendering and processing, which is insane. Okay, so yeah. So one thing I want to do quickly is just right here, path of least resistance for ourselves, and just walk backwards and place ourselves a staircase. Um, this is something in Gregtech New Horizons. This is one of the main reasons I like Gregtech so much, is that basically every little thing does have a use. Like, there is a use to building basically what I'd call, like, infrastructure in Gregtech New Horizons. Like, there is an actual point of building roads and paths and etc. Like, well, there isn't if you're just going to go void dimension regardless, which is fine if you are. I definitely don't enjoy void dimension just for the aesthetic purposes. But if you're in just, in it for the long haul in the overworld, it definitely makes your life a lot easier to just do simple stuff like this. Like, this used to be a pain to get to, and now we have a nice little path all the way up to the tippy top of our little base. I'm gonna have to chop that tree. Alright, and then put a torch. So, in the effort of making these videos not 2 hours and lasting 8 centuries, like the last one is, what I'm gonna start doing is, in the dead time of, like, just blatant resource collecting of, okay, I'm just shoveling dirt or I'm just shoveling sand to complete, like, the gathering quest. You guys will not be joining me for that because you've already seen me gather clay. You don't need to see it again. Basically, I'll be unpausing for first time experiences or whenever I have something to comment to add. That 2 hours on itself has satisfied me in being like, okay, that is the 2 hours hold, no bars hold, like, have been held, of here's how do you go from spawn on hard mode to decent shit shack in an actually good biome. Alright, well, I'll bring you guys back when something interesting happens. So yeah, I just wanted to bring you guys back for just a quick second, but yeah, basically it's exactly as I said. We just ran over back to this big river, and there's just stacks of clay. These rivers are really where you want to look for clay. Just obviously big patches like this, they're everywhere. Don't bother faffing about with anything else. Just find a big river, swim out to the middle, and get your load of clay. Alright, just wanted to show you guys this. I'm just getting a little bit of extra sand while we're still here at the river. But this is, if you do not have the good spawns like I have in terms of the biomes, like the clay, the sand, and like the gravel-ish, like here in these inland lakes, this is where you're gonna find a lot of your gravel. These like inland lakes and the sand, deserts, riverbanks, etc. But this is primarily like 99% of the time in the early game where you're going to get your sand and gravel from is just you find a riverbank and you just mine along the edge and leave this outer one. On these parts like this, one thing you can also do is just take a bunch of dirt and place it as a wall, fill in, and then you'll have access of all this gravel down, like a couple layers. It opens up a lot of extra resources because the actual stuff you want usually only runs about 3 blocks down, as you can see here, the dirt. So for your first couple coke ovens, it's going to be pretty good. I know the quest says to craft a couple, at least at some point, but you should craft, ideally only one should be enough. As long as you keep the one running 24/7 from the second you craft it, you'll have more than enough fuel to run some steam machines. And once you got the steam machines up, in the alloy smelter, the steam alloy smelter, there's a far more efficient recipe. Instead of, we'll be using, well, coke oven bricks here. This is a recipe we have to deal with now, is a 3 clay and 5 sand to 3. So we're losing basically 2 sand out. But the more efficient recipe is by far is this alloy smelter one. It's a 1-1 to 2. So it's basically a double. Like, not only are we saving, it's like 4 times efficient. It's not exactly 4 times as efficient on sand. It's some integer of like some rounding probability of like 3.221 or something like that of better on sand, but it is just straight up double as good on clay. And as always on clay, we are just doubling up, right? We think we only need like 3 stacks of clay just at the top of that recipe is more than enough. I always do it for the first time, just always batch craft everything. So when I see, okay, we need X amount of, oop, where is it? Oh, yep, here it is. Let's just go ahead and mark it and move it back up. Oh, we've accidentally marked a stack. Oh, that's weird. Trying to figure out, shift mouse. There we go. Yeah, we'll move this back up over here. So, like, I see this recipe, right here. So my first instinct is just stack, stack, stack all these stacks with this wood form and just craft 64 out of all. Then 3 stacks of bricks melted down will easily get me to the mark. I'll have extra, but I already know that I'll use that extra later on for, there's that speed boost. Pretty useful. But I already know that I'll use that extra for more coke ovens later on. Because I plan on using Steam, at least for a little while, just to sort of flex the Steam power. Really showcase it in a lot of ways. It also looks cool. It's just really cool looking power production method, so I like using it. Another thing is also these pears were just hanging off of the trees around here in this biome. There's no pear sapling. They're just biomes of plenty pears. They're not. So as far as I know, there's no sustainable way of reproducing mass amounts of this pear, this type. So there's no farmable way other than probably late game, like growth vats. Maybe even not even that. A lot of the times there's late game recipes for just basically duping items and growth vats, but apparently not for the pear. But it is 1.5 shanks, so it is actually better than meat, and they're just free, hanging on trees. So as you're out doing other things, exploring, always be picking up leafy gardens, You find berries, cool. We're just taking all of these. Right, every single bush, you're just gonna take it. You're just a goblin. For every single source of food, you, like, the thing is even crappy sources of food are good for the simple fact that these berries, sure, only reduce hunger by half a shank, but if you, what they do is they help break the cycle of not, like, eaten twice out of the last 20 foods. Those 4 berries you eat, even though they only give you 2 full hunger bars, well, 2 full hunger, I guess, shanks, right? They still count as a part of the loop. Holy crap, that's a lot of damage. Yeah, never kill animals when you're low when you're low on HP. So like we can use the berries in combination with the cooked pork as a part of, you know, everything else in combination to cycle out the foods. Because if we have a stack of cooked pork chop right now, it doesn't do us much good because we can only eat it 6 times before it starts giving no nutritional value at all. And on number 5 and 6, half value, which is the same as the berry anyway. Oh, bit of lag. So it's just, it all helps. Every little bit helps. And then we're just gonna plant these down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just gonna plant like this. Just make a big old mound. There's gonna be some waste, but again, we don't really care. These produce so much, and we're never gonna be able to eat them all. It's whatever. Another thing to keep out for is more gardens. Gardens are a give and take in a lot of ways. So to solve the food, basically the food race permanently, is you need gardens to turn in to the quest book to get the healing axe. So the healing axe, to normally craft it, if you just start typing in healing axe, just letting you know you're not crafting it because it is unstable ingots, which is, well, yeah, you're gonna need diamonds, iron. Okay, that's easy, but where do I get this division signal? It's, well, good luck, right? It's just not happening. The way you actually get it, though, is this quest, Hunger No More. So this is also another thing, is if you're wondering if, like, an item... So this is another good thing about JUI we never covered in the first episode. So Healing Axe, I'm just going to pin it. Oop. Just for, you know, longevity's sake. But say we just go... Okay. Blast Furnace. Right. Say we're like, okay, we want steel, black furnace. Or blast furnace. See, there is no thing for it, even though we know there is a recipe, so it's not always intrinsically right. But we have like electric furnace, which still in Gregtech, there is a recipe to craft electric furnace, but it's still not. So it's only in certain things, which is, it's kind of weird, it really is, in the better questing. So like, I want a healing axe, you can see better questing here. If there is the book, basically if you're looking at recipes going down the rabbit hole and you see the book symbol, you might as well just click on over to it. Healing axe, so we can see Hunger No More. When you hold the axe, it just gives you saturation back, and it gives you not only saturation, but also the food bars itself. So it gives you your HP. It's not as efficient at giving you HP back. And if an enemy actually hits you with hungering, it can actually bring you down full to 0 with hungering, because your food shank, your food shanks will be restored before your actual like saturation, so you'll just die. So here you just need 8 of every garden, including nether garden. So you need steel before you can get the axe anyway, because you need nether gardens. So there is no true like rushing this. Then you need 20 of all these meals, but a lot of them are like the beef Wellington is spinach, we just planted that. Mushrooms, there's that in the forest. And then for every single meat, you're just going to be replacing it with tofu in most cases. And then you have dough, which is just flour, which is just grinded up oats and rice and just really nothing of a problem. Once you get a sizable farm and start stockpiling stuff inside of chest, you're not going to have a problem at all with gathering the necessary food resources to craft the healing axe. It's just a decider of, am I going to beeline for this or am I not, is really the pinnacle of the equation there. Another thing, this is definitely my bad, I forgot to do this, is I need to plant this sugarcane before anything else. And I'm just going to plant it down at the farm. There's basically in Gregtech also is mass amounts of any type of what you consider raw material is always useful for one reason or another. There is no useless materials in Gregtech. There just isn't. There are materials of which you might not have a use for at this moment, but there are no useless materials. Every single thing can be used for something. Every single piece of cobble will eventually be used. Every single dirt can eventually have a purpose. Every piece of wood, every single thing of sugarcane, basically everything that's organic can be turned into either benzene or biofuel. So it all will eventually cook down into something that you're going to be wanting to either use to complete a quest or just run your base. So we're actually a bit short on the sand, which is annoying. So what we're going to do is actually just have the recipe and see where that takes us for now on it. Mainly, actually, you know. And so it begins, we actually killed those pigs, so we'll go ahead and claim that. Spare food thrown there. There's still quests to do in this tab, like here, you can get this reaping quest. We don't actually have the wood for it, so let me just go grab some spare log. The only annoying thing with the rubber is you can't use rubber wood for normal wood purposes. Just if you've come from Tech-It, you would, you already know that and assume that, but yeah, the rubber wood cannot be your wood to farm and be the end-all be-all. Cooking it into charcoal through the coke furnaces or other things is a-okay, but you can't make it up into planks. So we're just gonna stick all of this. Don't be afraid to go through your wood like that, even though it's the bad, quote unquote, like bad, like, conversion. You're not getting the good conversion for a long while yet, so yeah. So here we go, you reap what you sow. Then there is a way here to turn in, get 64 logs, and give away 10 to get some bone meal. So I'm going to probably just go ahead and quickly do that quest, and I'll bring you back once that's done. Alright, so we're back here. So we see we get choice rewards. I'm actually just going to take the torches for the simple reason that we still don't have our coke oven. Torches are a finite resource for us right now. But you can see, you can hear the carrots grow. So, got a bit turned around. So what we'll do with the bone meal is we're just going to go right over and bone meal the carrots and get a bunch of carrots. Carrots are good because, well, you can not only eat the carrots, but with the soft mallet, you can make carrot juice. So in the early game, I always like to focus foods which become multiple types, right? So like carrots, now we also get potatoes. So we want to get these down immediately as well. Potatoes are one of the best early game foods because potatoes can be two different types as well. You can't make potato juice, but baked potatoes and baked potatoes on a stick are two separate items. So with just potatoes and carrots and apples, you can have apples, apple juice, carrot juice, potatoes, and potatoes on sticks for a total of 6 types of food. So from just chopping oak trees for apples and 2 different types of potato and carrot, you can actually have a full lunchbox. Here we have Nemo. Looks like you found him. We'll keep Nemo. And then look what quest that unlocked. Well, nothing, because Oh yeah, I think it wants us to go down some of these, like collecting berries, which is fine. We just, like here it tells you roast a potato on a stick, which actually increases the nutritional value, so it is not just, it's not solely about, you know, getting through, getting around the hunger by cycling faster. It is actually a nutritional benefit. So here we can claim the clay. We're going to take the bacon sandwiches. On the sand, we're going to take the loot bag. And on the gravel, we'll also take the loot bag. Hello? Uh-oh. Oh, okay. That's weird. They just magically appeared in my inventory there. So one thing we'll do, close up the lunch bag and just replace. And then dump the spare food into there. We also harvested our first crop from the thing, from the garden, pineapple. So we can just take a look. It's always nice to take a look at what we can make with, you know, our foods that we're harvesting. So the main thing here that looks obtainable to us is knives. Knives are just, there's actually a quest in chapter 1 for making a knife. This one, yeah, craft a flint knife with a stick and a piece of flint. Well, we already have that. And then we'll go ahead and take gravel here. So it says a stick and a piece of flint, so I assume this is a shape. It is shaped, okay. So this knife, so we can actually combine 2 of our crappy pineapples, which can also be eaten on their own, into a fruit salad. So with a bunch of fruit, we can make a bunch of fruit salads, which looks like they can be taken even further. So this is where you can see, like, having lots of different crops. This is how you solve the food problem, is just basically brute force of every single crop in the game, because there are so many different combinations of food in Gregtech New Horizon that it's like, okay, you have fruit salad. This is already better than, like, you know, cooked pork chops already won. So we're already better than cooked meat. And then, okay, we have strawberries growing right now. Well, we can throw that on top, and now we have strawberry salad. And not only are both of these better than cooked pork chop, but they also count as 4 food here, 4 food here, and we can take this even further into the tins. I've never used the Industrial Craft 2 tins, but from what I know and have heard, and mainly from Karax, is that these tins keep the nutritional value of whatever you put inside, but bypass completely the spice of life. So here we can see, okay, we have cucumber soup from that. So there we passed up on 2 food items, the 2 leek soups, and we got better. Here we've got a creeper head, which creeper head is actually pretty good. Mob heads in general are always welcome. They're not the easiest things to come by, and I'd much rather have a creeper head over 2, 2 sandwiches, really. So then we can go back. Oh, also claim this. Boop. So we get a knife. It's an iron knife, so we'll add that to our kitchenware. Coins and some raw pork. So we can actually even see like raw pork. Okay, what can we do? Okay, I've never actually seen mechanical pig. That's funny. But we can see in shapeless crafting, we have like pork lo mein, pea and ham soup, some decent things, but the main thing we're looking for, like we have raw meaty stew, but obviously once you cook it, it's much better. The thing we're looking for is as little ingredients as possible to as big of a gain as possible without lots of annoyance. It's like here, this pineapple ham is a great example. You can combine a cherry, right? Any cherry, extra trees, cherries, forestry cherries, pineapples, which we already have, a rolling pin, a raw pork. So 3 raw ingredients that are basically straight from the farm, straight from the butcher, no prep, and then sugar, which sugar can be got from mortaring just sugar cane. So it's just all raw ingredients straight to a pineapple ham, which is 3 shanks. So it's just doing stuff like this. And then we can also see how this can expand of, okay, but we already have sugar and ham in the rolling pin for this. Well, here's baked ham. It's an apple. Okay, well, if we have an oak tree farm, then now we just reuse all of the ingredients from this, move it down, add an apple. Okay, now we've got baked ham. And then we move it down here and go, okay, now we can make spicy mustard pork because we have garlic growing, and we make mustard from soft mallet and mustard seeds growing. And you just keep moving down and down that chain of, okay, I have lots of pork and lots of X materials, and then you have, and the next, well, I have a bunch of apples. Okay, add them in, boom. Now you're rocking and rolling on the next thing. And it's a really good cascading effect. So the next thing it needs us to do is get stone, which is just, quite frankly put, waiting around. So once this is done, I'll bring you guys back once we actually get to some interesting parts of this quest book. Alright, so we're back. We got stone. As always, in Gregtech New Horizons, never stand still. You're cooking stone, start building your base. Also, another thing that is incredibly important is F7. What F7 does is basically every block that does not have a yellow on it, like a yellow X, can never spawn mobs, no matter what the day-night cycle is. So basically, we can see here in this little perimeter, and inside this base, there are no yellow X's, which means mobs cannot spawn. But if I had left this area and wasn't, outside the mob spawning box, a mob could spawn here at nighttime. So that is annoying. So obviously we've put up torches that expands the area a bit, which makes things very nice. So one thing it's going to have us make right here, we've already found a bucket in that mob spawner, this iron one. So we've actually skipped entirely the clay bucket stage, which is nice. But it's asking us to craft the mortar. The mortar is very cheap. It's just 5 stone and 2 flint. This is the holy grail. This is basically, we've gone from now this recipe, which is extremely inefficient, to this. Boom. 32 flint just crafted. And then obviously we can just take this and reinvest. Right? Reinvest directly back into getting more flint. So we can actually turn, instead of 3 stacks of gravel into 1 stack of flint, we can actually go 1-to-1 now, which is incredibly important because, well, at the moment and into the future, all of our tools are going to be made with flint for the foreseeable future. Even when we get basic Tinker's ones, it's still going to be flint. And this quest here also marks the beginning of the first thing that you can actually use for base building. Always pick the chisel, stone. Another thing I always recommend when it comes to questing, always take the rewards that, unless it is circuits, unless it's circuits, always take the reward that you cannot craft at the moment, because it is likely to be just useful. So like stone, we can get 16 more stone. It's just rocks and wood. The chisel requires screwdrivers and a hammer and iron plates. We can't do this yet. So take the chisel, just throw it in, and it'll be having a good time down there. So the next thing is it's something to carry liquids. It's just this clay dust, which this is exactly why we don't want to go down this road, is right now we have to suffer with it. You can see how, you imagine how inefficient this is. Right, going to the rivers, mining this clay, putting in the mortars, breaking mortars to basically just restart the entire process of it's just get gravel to make mortars and then mine wood using the flint. It's just a ball ache that you do not want to. You don't want to shuttle down. You don't want to do it. If you have the option, you don't. You really don't want to do that. You just want to go straight from just stained clay and take like stained clays in a steam macerator and get clay dust. You just want to avoid having to use clay dust as much as possible for as long as possible. Firing the bucket is no fancy shenanigans in this pack, like there is in like Subtech and other packs. Just take your unfired bucket, throw it in the furnace with a piece of plank, and Bob's your uncle. There you go. Here, I'm going to take the peanut butter cookies just because I like peanut butter more in real life. Choice reward, you know. So here we have finite water. This is just another way. So like, say you are stuck in an all desert, how do you get water? Well, one way you can do that is cactus. If you can drink cacti. You should also be able to make water out of it. 8 cacti and use that for most recipes that require water. How cool is that? So what it wants you to do is basically get string from the cotton you're growing, which we've started, and make basically an old water farm, a string and water flow farm, just a very old-fashioned, rudimentary, um, farm. Um, I don't think there's a Whopper in this pack. No. So the Whopper is basically just a wooden hopper that only has one slot. It's extremely overpowered. I mean, if it's in a pack, I've used the living hell out of them. They're way too good. So I'm glad they're not in this pack. But basically, yeah. The first player to make a base running off of only cactus gets a cave, right? It's kind of a joke. So we can skip that and go to book parts. So this is another thing. Okay, cool. We've got to take logs and grind them down. Get, more logs and grind them down in a mortar. So, as always, I will be right back with those logs. Alright, so we're back. I've got the logs, and so we'll just throw it in. Boom, we got our wood pulp. So we can see here paper, though. This is the problem, yeah, this, this is the problem. You need wood, you need a bucket and paper, which is obviously incredibly annoying. Another thing to keep a lookout for is this quarried stone. Mobs can't actually spawn on quarried stone. So if you're building a base in like a cave, trying to take over a cave, replacing your entire floor in the early game with quarried stone will actually keep mobs from spawning. We can actually see the old F7 trick, and it holds true. Even though this is like in the dark, doesn't matter, it's quarried stone, so it will not be spawning those mobs. So what we need to do is actually just use 2 of these logs, and now that we've got an excess amount of flint, it's very useful. One thing I also want to do, now that we have a lot of flint, I did not grab it out of the chest. If you didn't see in the first episode, this is how you just craft a furnace. Obviously, a bit more expensive. And so, yep, got the crafting bench. So, yeah. Okay, we did actually grab the bucket. So, yeah, we kind of have to ruin the world a little bit to make it a better place eventually. So this is just 2 paper, get the rest. And yeah, this is exactly as enjoyable as it looks. It's enjoyable as it looks. It really is. There is certain things that I will tote on forever and be the first cheerleader for, like, yeah, when you're getting clay, I know it's annoying, but just stick with it and get more clay than you actually need in the moment, because don't worry, you're gonna need more clay later. Because even all the way down in like the aluminum tier, clay dust is still useful. But when it comes to paper and this kind of stuff, don't. just don't, because there is just better ways to do this later on. There just is. There are simply just more efficient, more concise, better ways of, sorry about that, I had to tab out, better ways of crafting. we're just gonna hold right click. You can see here the dividends of the farm are already coming in. For curry leaf, tomatoes, bell peppers, it's pretty good. You can see curry powder can be turned into a whole host of different things. We can look for maybe something simpler. So we can see our cooked pork, curry powder, our bell peppers actually right here. So if we get a little bit of salt, we actually have the ability to make pepperoni, like right now. So we can actually look up salt. So salt, it will be needed for a lot of cooking recipes. So you have saltpeter, which is an ore which we can find, which can spawn in the nether and in the twilight forest. So we can actually unlock, so we can see Pam's Harvestcraft salt is also the same way. But is there a way to like craft it? Well, oh God. Okay, yeah, so ignore this entirely. Um yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like you will always need materials. Well, eventually you get crap like this to where a processing of this space-time manipulator gets you 240 million stone dust, right? And 14 million iron dust, which you might think, wow, this is excessive. You would never need this much of anything. And then you realize that, yeah, actually this isn't enough for some of the later game crap. I've never gotten anyway. I mean, you can see here space-time tier crude. Like you're calling getting 14 million iron crude, which is we're here playing with dirts and rock. We are literal cavemen. Which that is also another enjoyable thing of Gregtech New Horizons is just always knowing. One thing that I always find myself kind of in games is once you see the light at the end of the tunnel, like in Victoria 3, for example, or EU4, or like mainly strategy games, once you're over the hump, right? Once you're over that breaking point of, am I really going to be able to do the world conquest, or am I really going to be able to win this war and turn this economy around? And the answer is yes, and it's clearly yes. And the only obstacle in between you and it is time, is just micro and sinking more time into it. It's just kind of a drag. It's just eh. It's not really fun. What I'm trying to find right now is our very important. Oh, cotton plant. Yeah, I'm blind. So this cotton plant needs to be expanded, like a lot, a lot. I'm already regretting not breaking the other textile garden. I didn't because I'm greedy like that. So don't be greedy like me. Like this garden needs to be broken too, right? Like this just gave us even more of the stuff we need. Get our hoe. Right, like ginger, didn't have that. Garlic, need that for tons of recipe. Tea leaf, sure, why not? Bosh it in, right? Might as well. So this is another thing you can see as I hoe this back here. When you hoe just empty ground, sometimes you get natural stuff. Sometimes the main thing you get from doing it is witchery plants. So we have barley seeds, we can plant those. Barley is essentially an alternative for wheat. So we can see here, like snowballs we don't have access to, but yeah, chai tea we don't really have access to either. But we can just straight smelt the tea leaves for a cup of tea, which is, well, a cup of tea is just as good as... What the? Oh, I am Edoi. A cup of tea is just as good as... Plant the curry as well. Just as good as a cooked meat anyway. Tomatoes can be made into a bunch of different things. The main thing I'm looking for is tomato soup, because I believe... So like here, if we have rice, bell peppers, tomatoes, really easy. We get an amazing food, stuffed peppers. That's great. Mixed salads are also amazing, because they're just salad dressing, which isn't... Well, so we need our salt before we can do that. We can also see different things like garden soup. This is really easy, because the pot is the only hard part, which needs iron, but that is not entirely unobtainable for us. We could actually do it at Well, not as we speak. We still need a couple more steps for then. But we can see garden soup and also tomato soup are two very good things, which are just tomato, the pot, and the stock. Stock is not just bones. Never do these two recipes. They're extremely inefficient. This is the recipe you want. Just, it's literally, you can see it cycling. Any vegetable at all and a pot is just 3 stock. And you can see all these different recipes that stock can be made into. Just basically you just replace stock in your mind with just any old vegetable. So just any old vegetable, potato, and salt can make potato soup. Or here, garden soup. So it's basically, garden soup is just, it can be 3 of the same vegetable is the best part, because tomatoes in a pot can make stock, and then 2 tomatoes plus stock make garden soup. So just, it's a 2-for-1 combo, because just wanna, oh god. Okay, so I have decisively messed up really badly and lost track of the time. So now we get to talk about food in this hole. So basically, we can talk about food theory in the hole. So yeah, like tomatoes can be turned, with just tomatoes, you can go as far as making just tomatoes into garden soup, just tomatoes into mixed salad, or not into mixed salad. That's my bad. Just tomatoes can make tomato soup, and just tomatoes can make garden soup. So just with only tomatoes and a pot, which the Pam's Harvest Craft tools, so you can see here the cycling. So like the Gregtech tools, if you use them in these recipes, will lose durability, while the Pam's Harvest Craft versions do not. The reason for that is to make the Pam's Harvest Craft ones, they are much more expensive, and the vast majority of the time take like iron and etc. It's like here you have like the saucepan in the skillet, which takes iron and different materials, but the alternatives like the knife can just be made with flint and a stick, so it's a really cheap alternative. We can see here lettuce and tomato and a cucumber can make vegetarian lettuce wraps. So it's pretty good. So like again, like lettuce and tomato can make spring salad. Just tomato can make garden soup. Just tomato can make tomato soup. Just tomato can make stock for the rest of our stuff. Tomato can also be used to make ketchup, which, you know, you can see sausage in bread and hash. Sausage and bread is another really easy, amazing food, because you have ketchup, which is just tomato, as we mentioned. Onion is just a raw product. Bread is extremely easy because it is just dough, right? Dough with just water, again, the salt and the ground flour, which is not hard once you actually have the salt. And then the last thing that's actually decently hard is the maple sausage, which is spice leaf, is just another plant you can grow. Tofu is just soybeans minced down with a hammer, so it's just something you grow. And the maple syrup, which is maple wood through a steam extractor, which we'll have access to extremely quickly. So even like truly S plus tier foods like sausage and bread are not entirely beyond us at this time, right? Like we are only about, I don't know, 30 hours of gameplay, like one machine and a couple other food items which we can discover and find fairly rapidly away from basically a full hunger bar in a food, right? And that's the case with a lot of these things. It's like hash. Hash is an amazing food, right? This is basically the old steak, and it's just something you grow, something you grow, something you grow, and something you grow. There is no actual cooking involved in this. It's just firm tofu, which is just wet tofu with a mallet, and that's just, if you actually have the mixer, which you need LV for that, it's even easier. You just hook up water and mix for the tofu. But if not, now you may think, well, this is an annoying recipe, and I agree. The benefit, though, is working with water becomes exceptionally better once we get a water siding tank and a saw. Once we get a saw, we can apply the saw to the crafting table to get the Tinker's Construct crafting table. And what that allows is if you put the Tinker's Construct crafting table next to the water siding tank, they do allow each other to interact. So you can simply shuttle all of your buckets into the water siding tank to just water, 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 just boom, 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 and then put them all into the crafting table to get fresh water here. And just grab fresh water, which is stackable up to 64, which then, of course, you can use fresh water in every single recipe that would annoyingly need like a bucket, right? So you can use fresh water like here, and so this is how you actually get the salt, but like fresh water to make your tofu, fresh water to make your edible salt. So you can't actually get salt. I'm actually going to pin this. You can actually get the edible salt before we go nether. With just this, yes. Well, it's still night. One thing that I also could be corrected on, I thought at one point the Pam's Harvest Craft tools in Gregtech New Horizons needed steel. I could just be entirely wrong about that, and that's just me remembering it incorrectly from my first playthrough. But like here, grilled skewer, onion, carrot, bell pepper, knife, and a stick. We can actually make this right now if we get a harvest in. Um, Cooked fork, rice, bell pepper, beans, beans and rice. Like an amazing food. Supreme pizza, that's a bit further off, a bit more involved. But like here, lamb kebab. We have lamb, we have onion and bell pepper and a knife and a stick. Okay, here's decent food. Right? We talked about the pepperonis. Chili, here's a decent food. Bell peppers, a pot, beans, and so just 3 growables is another good food. So you can see how very quickly how even before you hit LV with a basic Pam's Harvest Craft kitchen in really itemizing for about 8 or 9 key ingredients like potatoes, bell peppers, onions, beans, tofu, and that, you can actually create a truly like at minimum you're going to be eating 2 shank foods, right? You're going to be enjoying garden soup and spring salads. Like spring salads can even be taken further with a cucumber to cucumber salad, right? Which is hilarious because you can also use cucumber, as you can see here, in the making of the spring salad. So with just cucumber and lettuce alone in a knife, right, you can get spring salads and cucumber salads, which is right now. There is no waiting on that. So for this is what I'm talking about of like the food process, the food problem. It's not a hard problem to solve, is the main thing. It just, unlike basically every other Minecraft mod, actual thought has to be put into it. There has to be preparation, there has to be an attempt and an end goal that you are desiring out of it. It's not just, oh, my food's low, so let me kill myself, or oh, my food's low, so let me just go out and chop up 10 billion cows and then I'm good forever. There actually has to be an attempt and basically a drive towards it. So here we have part builder, stencil table, tool station, pattern chest, and it goes on to making these other things, which this forming press goes and connects here to make the actual coke and the cow tipper, so it's like, but this recording's getting kind of long at this point. I kind of want to end the episode here as it's kind of vaguely, I want to try to theme these episodes ish in a way, so that way they're clear, because it is truly like a guide series. It's not just a let's play, it's more of like a guide of general tips and tricks and just knowledge of helping new players. So this is kind of like a decent place to stop. Um, but yeah, before the next episode starts, I'll definitely get the new tools. I'm gonna go down, like I'm at the very minimum gonna craft these because There's going to be piddling around in the base to do, waiting for that cotton to grow to get me string so I can actually make the oak barricades. And then, yeah, more chopping for fences and more shenanigans. Because 4 blank patterns, oh no. Because to make it, it's just this. The only benefit of this is we spend 4 and we have 2 left over, which is just enough to get us through your first tool, which I think will give us more. Hopefully we don't have to craft any more blank patterns. I pray no more blank patterns. No more blank patterns. I pray. Oh, it is day. Oop. So yeah, we'll do a harvest of the cane. We'll go ahead and get back up to the house to end it. Be good, concise. Oops, sorry, squid. Break this. Oh god, the hitbox is so funky on that garbage. That's why it needs to be destroyed. So yeah, we can have like mustard seeds here. We'll just go ahead and eat that. You can see like the cotton is struggling to do what it needs to do. So there's going to be some other faffing about. So this is also another big thing in Gregtech is you always need multiple things to be doing because you're always going to be waiting on something. Waiting for cotton to grow, waiting for iron to smelt, waiting for, you know, X, Y, and Z of 20 billion other things, right? Like it's inevitable. Waiting is a part of Gregtech, but the number one advice I guess I can leave this episode off on for people is if you ever find yourself in a position to where you are truly waiting, like just, okay, my stuff is smelting, so I'm just going to go AFK in the corner. Unless you are doing that just to pass time and get stuff done while you do things like in real life, like, okay, I'm going to go cook dinner, so I'm going to go set up in a safe spot and go into my inventory and let stuff cook. That's fine. Because again, there's purpose, determination, like natural reason behind doing that. But when it comes to actually playing the game, there there's something you're missing if you feel like the most efficient use of your time is to just wait for stuff to smelt, kick your feet up, and hop on your phone or something like that. Because there is something you could be doing to make your life easier down the road, making that next path, expanding your farm, looking at new recipes, chopping down your tree farms to replant them, getting an extra few logs, pre-crafting. Oh, I'm low on sticks. Refilling your stick stockpile before you need sticks. Oh, I'm low on flint, or I'm low on whatever, right? Or, oh, my lunch bag is kind of empty. Let me go ahead and get that sorted and get my food situation sorted while it's smelting. There's always something you could be doing, and that's what I encourage people to think about, because there is cases in modded Minecraft to where other modded Minecraft, which is why I've always liked Gregtech the best, is there were cases like in Enigmatica 2 Expert I played, completed that pack. In Enigmatica 2 Expert, there were about 90% of the pack you spent in a crafting table, which is surprisingly worse than Gregtech. You may think you spend a lot of time in the crafting table, but you really don't. Like, you think of how much time I've spent in the crafting table in this pack thus far, and it's relatively a short amount. There has not been that much crafting table time in this pack thus far, and there really isn't much more crafting table time in the near future at all. But in and that's a tongue twister. In Enigmatica 2, there truly was just pointless days of just being inside of a crafting bench, and the most efficient thing to do was to just sit and manually craft computer parts, so that way the computer can craft for me basically the redstone energy cubes, because the recipe was just stupidly annoying for literally no good reason, and manually mining or anything like that was just worthless because screw it, if you need a bulk resource, you use the immersive engineering thing and it gets you infinite and whatever, Bob's your uncle. It's just boring. But it's not like that in Gregtech. It's not like that here. There is, even once we get later on and we have a miner that can automatically mine, there's, while that's mining, sure, it's good, but it's not the fastest. And we can go on and do manual mining somewhere else, and it will be faster or just as efficient and still useful. It's very, everything, there's always something to be doing, which is nice. Because another problem with a lot of Minecraft mod packs is, especially with like an Animatica 2 Expert, if you get bored of doing one thing, there is no room to efficiently pivot, which I don't know how many people watching can share this sentiment, but there's always something, basically there's always a nagging feeling at the back of my head to where it's like, okay, I don't really want to craft right now. I really don't want to just do crafting micromanagement. That's not on what I want to do right now. And so I just will refuse to do it, right? But in other packs, like Animatica 2 Expert, that was the only way to progress forward the pack. Exploration, useless. Base building, pointless. There was no point. Everything could be slapped down on a lawn base. It doesn't matter, right? There's no threat. It's whatever. It's pointless. Energy transfer is infinite anyway because of the flux ducts and Ender IO and the computer. It's whatever. None of it matters. And you put down one basic nuclear reactor with a big battery, and you can power whatever you want till you get to Draconic Evolution, which is at that point infinite energy. It's just pointless. The actual only way to advance is to just grind in the crafting bench. But in Gregtech, having a decent base goes a long way. If you're not going to go to the void and you're actually going to stay in the overworld, just paths like this. Like this has already saved so much hunger. You truly don't notice it till the path is in, of just how much hunger this saves. That is like a 50 block up jump, easily saving me the entire purpose of going down to the farm in the first place, is all of my food. There's always something else to do in Gregtech to pivot to if you get bored with what you're currently doing. And the truly most enjoyable part of that for me is that it's actually useful. It's not worthless. Because a lot of the times it's very disheartening to be playing a Minecraft mod pack and then basically realize that, okay, this is the only way forward, but I'm not really in the mood to do that. And doing anything else is just really a waste of time. And so what that just leads is the inevitable conclusion of, well, I guess I just won't play, which is always the worst feeling because it truly is Gregtech. It's not something that you're meant to bull rush or like grind through. It's an experience. You're truly set out on a world that nobody else will ever experience. Except for, well, you guys watching through the videos, but you're truly setting out on a world and experience that you and you alone are going to enjoy. And it doesn't matter what others think. And everything you think of to do is useful. Oh, knock down these trees? Well, that's useful. I could use that wood, and it stopped mobs from spawning around my farm. Oh, I want to level up my tinker's tools? Well, okay. There's some mines that need dug out. There's some mobs to fight in those roguelike dungeons. Those roguelike dungeons have useful stuff. There's bricks in there. There's cauldrons. There's hoppers. There's chests. There's good stuff in there. There's an actual purpose of going into those. Because chests and hoppers and cauldrons are normally just jokes. But in Gregtech, they're actually worth something. They're hard to craft and they're actually useful to have. Cauldrons you can use with water inside of them to wash your ores early. If you actually brave a roguelike dungeon and get a cauldron early, you can actually begin to process ores you never could have sooner. There's an actual purpose to even little things like that. Little exploration journeys, finding a witch hut and stealing the cauldron. There is an actual purpose in everything, which is refreshing and gratifying to know that every bit of time spent in the world is making it better and making your experience better. There is truly no wasted time. It isn't vanilla Minecraft to where every single building built and every single block mined before you have efficiency 4 diamond tools is a waste because you have been spending that time inefficiently. It's a waste of time. It's so easy. In 3 or 4 hours, you can have maxed diamond tools very quickly. Villager trading, stick trades, and grinding everything down. You don't even have to enter the nether before you have full maxed out gear, right? You don't need to enter the nether. You don't need to ever mine a diamond. You just trade for it all through villages. Grind it. And it's grimy. And it's just, you feel weird. You want to take things slow, but also you can't because it truly is a waste of your time. It's a waste of your time to go mine stacks upon stacks of cobblestone with a stone pickaxe just because you don't want to rush to the late game of Minecraft. And it's terrible to try to fight across your world without an elytra because, well, I don't want to ruin the sense of travel. It's there, it's easily accessible, it's just right over there. But that's what Gregtech returns back to you. Returns back to the simplicity. Even if you don't really care about messing around with lots of the magic and the advanced machinery, that can come as a side part. What Gregtech returns to you is the sense of control of progression, of, hey, sure, I could rush and have done the blank templates before the food, but I actually have enough food to last me. I'm comfortable. I've got tons of food. Look at all these options. I can craft these 2 bell peppers, right? Well, should have been able to craft these 2 bell peppers into some food, right? Oh, yeah, that's my bad. I need stock. Well, ignore that. But you can craft these foods, like I can eat these. I can eat all of these. These are all good. And speaking of, I'm just going to line all of these up. Because I do need to eat every single one of these to get that extra heart thing ticked off for myself, you know? So we can go ahead and add every single little bit of food. And there we go. And the reason, and it feels good. Like I actually did it. I took things slow, did food, did it responsibly, did it right, and I get to enjoy it. There was no, well, this is pointless. Why would you bother making a food farm? Because you can just mine with your efficiency 4 diamond pickaxe, go to the nether roof, and make a zombie hoglin farm, or not a zombie, just a normal hoglin farm inside of a warped forest instantly. Screw that. And then you sit AFK up there for 2 hours, and then you've got a shulker box full of cooked pork chops. Or screw that, go trade for the villagers. Take your infinite sticks, buy emeralds, and then use the emeralds and trade for golden carrots off the guys you traded up getting the prop 4 diamond armor in the first place. Screw making a farm. Why do you need a farm? Well, there's an actual purpose. Better foods, making it easier to traverse the world, making me feel more carefree. The more food I have, the more I can run and sprint and jump without really having to worry about it. And also, the more different foods I collect, benefits me. I get extra hearts. It's an actual purpose. Having the more food I have, the more carefree I can be with losing my food, with using my food. It's a resource. It's not just a checkbox to light a bunch of cows on fire with flint and steel and beat them all to death with a stone axe and call it a day. It's not just a checkbox that has to be done. It's an actual involved part of the game that's no longer just shoved to the side and relegated to basically a joke, which is just a very enjoyable part. of Gregtech New Horizons. Well, now that my food rant is done, I will bid you all adieu and see you all in the next video.